Hello. I I decided to make a video in honor of the late Wes Craven, and and I want to talk about how much of an inspiration he was for me. Um, and I decided that I can't do this with a simple post on Facebook or on Twitter. That I feel like I was obligated to make a video to show how much of an influence his creative and his genius has inspired me. I'm wearing. Decided to wear my what I call my Freddy Krueger shirt. It's close enough. Doesn't really have the greenish stripes there, but it's close enough. A friend gave this to me. A friend knew how much the Nightmare on Elm Street series meant to me, and I just want to talk about how great Wes Craven is and how his work inspired me. I mean, he was a genius. He was very creative. What I love about his work, especially with the two favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies I like out of what he's only done two of them, the first and the seventh, and is that he really knows how to he knows how to make something scary when it comes to horror film. And nowadays movies, like when they do horror films, they don't seem to grasp that idea, that the atmosphere, the tension, the you know. And what I like is that he really gets down to the um, psychological um, aspects of storytelling. That he really goes into this within the mindscape, and in a way, that's what Nightmare on Elm Street is that it's within dreams, it's within nightmares, all up in here and whatnot, and that's what the sequels could never do, was to do something very um, cerebral, or something that was tapped into the mind, and I feel that that's what he I'm sorry, I'm holding this up with my hand, and that's what I say that he um, did so well, was he knew what was scary, what was frightening, what was he tapped into that like it was nothing. I saw that in the Scream movies. I saw that Hills Have Eyes. I saw that in all of his work, and he did it in a way where it was creative and somewhat relatable, you know, and and that's what I liked about the first Nightmare on Elm Street, which I think the remake cannot top at all, is to do something what he did, which was to me like the first Inception. It really gets you thinking. And horror film, I don't think ever tries to do that. They just try to go for the screams and kills and all that stuff. What the audience wants to see. And he just did something that was for him. And as a filmmaker, that is truly inspiring. I've always, I'm a, I want to do movies. I've been making movies. I've been making stories, and it's been hard for me at times trying to come up with something and put it on paper. It's always easy to come up with something, but putting it on paper has always been the tough part. And anytime I think you know about the characters, about the story, I think what would Wes Craven do? And I honestly think that, like, he's never, you know, my type of storytelling is not anywhere near as horror films, but I do do that as on the side too, but it's not something I think about doing a lot. Um, but I think like what would Wes do, you know, and I think about that, and then I go back to work and I write, and yeah, um, he was a great man. I didn't know him personally. Interviews, all that, you know, watching the Elm Street Legacy, what was it called? Never Sleep Again, and just getting to know him from that, and getting to know, in a way, you get to know someone while like watching their movie. You see, and then you hear where they talk about it in an interview or something. You're just like, I see it. I see what you mean, and you get to know them a little bit better. And right now, I'm not feeling good, so making a video of this is, I had this plan before I got sick, but yeah. So after all that, I appreciate and I honor Wes Craven for his hard work, for all the amazing work that he has put. And I know he didn't want a sequel to Nightmare series, but honestly, he never thought it would happen. And honestly, if there wasn't a series, if it wasn't Freddy Krueger became this infamous icon, this big time horror icon, I probably would have never gone into horror films. And it's one of my favorite genres to watch and whatnot. And I got into it because of you, Wes Craven, and it was the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And I didn't want to watch horror films. I'm just like, oh god, no, I'm scared of them. And then I watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and it was scary when I first watched it. But every time I go back to it, I always see something new and something different. And I'm not as scared as with horror movies anymore. You know, it's because of watching Nightmare on Elm Street got me through that fear, and here I am, and I still love the series. I still love all of your work, and you know, you're truly inspiring as a director, as a writer, as a even an actor too. I mean, didn't do much acting, but you know, but when I think of like if I want to get back into acting or not, because there's been down times, I'm just like, you know, I would think about my favorite directors and writers and directors. You know, I always think, what would they do? And I know at the end of it, they would not give up. So yeah, and yeah. So thank you, Wes Craven, for being a great inspiration and motivator for me through these years. I never saw this day coming anytime soon, but at least now you're in peace. You're in peace. You're in heaven. May you know. You always doubted, would I go to heaven? No, but I believe you are, and I believe you're up there with all the other icons, and you deserve it. After all you've been through, you deserve everything. Like, you're up there. Even if all you did was horror films, that's fine. You know, you brought something new and creative, something revolutionary to horror films that a lot of people would have not thought of back in the 80s. And I think that because of you, we want to think of beyond what we could do in a horror film, what we could do for the characters, for the story, the atmosphere, everything. When we think about, like, should we show the monster as much or not? And then, should we actually give a crap about the characters we kill off or not? And I feel like you made that a very huge, like, there's this big impact that, with the first movie, that A lot of horror movies, we would never really care about all the characters, just see them dead, right? But in that, I cared about every character. Every actor was great. Um, and you made Robert Englund a huge star, and you didn't even know it. No one did. And that's the great thing about it. It was just one of those underdog movies that you maybe had no chance. And I like to think of it that way. And maybe, because I feel like an underdog too. So, so maybe in the future, I'll just be like, one day in the future, I'll be like that movie, and I'll go somewhere. And so that is it. What I'm gonna do now? Maybe watch some, the Never Sleep Again. I will sleep again. Don't worry. You know. But like I said, thank you, Wes, for everything. And yeah, like I said, I'll probably watch that documentary. It's a good documentary. You should watch it. Um, it's on Netflix. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. Either that or watch one of these movies. Maybe have a marathon of the three I mentioned. And that's pretty much it. And yeah, thank you, Wes, for everything. See you in the afterlife.